seat. We will get the show on the road. My name is Gene Chuang. I'm the CTO of Oversea, and hopefully everybody had a great time at dinner last night under the shuttle. I mean, it was an incredible experience. So we got we're on the home stretch this afternoon, and we're going to the Magic Castle. So we got, I think, a lot of good content to provide for you guys. So we got a talk on mobile coming up next, followed by a mobile panel that I'll be moderating, and then Pitch Fest, and then it's magic time. So let's get this done and go have a great dinner. The talk we have right now is Henry Tam. Henry is the VP of Millennial Media, leading independent mobile advertising and data pipeline platform powering the app economy. Henry manages sales, product development, and operations on a demand-side mobile display advertising platform. Prior to joining Millennial, Henry held managerial roles at Washington Post, The Atlantic, where he led the development of mobile and web strategy, including mobile applications and websites. At the Washington Post, Henry led the business efforts of Cars.com. So everybody give a warm welcome to Henry.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is my first time at Webfest, so nice to meet you all. So when I was asked to talk about mobile advertising trends to this audience, I thought to myself, what would this audience want to know about mobile? And the answer was pretty simple. How do you guys make money off of mobile? Is anyone making money off mobile right now in this room? Can I see a show of hands? 1, 2, 3, okay, 4, good, 5, 6 back there, good. So I'm here to tell you how people are actually making money on mobile. So as one of the largest mobile ad networks globally, and the only publicly traded mobile display network on the New York Stock Exchange, we have great insights into what current advertisers are doing and what the future of mobile monetization is. So I'd like to share some of that with you today. So this is a pretty straightforward slide. Mobile is taking over the world, right? And so one of the stats that my marketing person shared with me is that when someone loses their wallet, it takes them about, on average, 24 hours to report that they lost their wallet with their credit card, IDs, and all that stuff in their wallet. If you lose your mobile phone, can anyone guess what the reporting time of losing that mobile phone is? That's right, 53 minutes. So that just shows how important kind of the mobile phone has become to our just daily lives with regard to communication, emailing, texting, news, and all the things that you do with mobile. And it's a highly changing landscape. I mean, just in 2006, advertising was passive and simple, and there was really not much there. And it was just 5 years ago that the mobile app economy was born. The iPad was just launched in 2010. So this is a rapidly changing field, and it's going to change even more. And so the good news, I think, in terms of making money, is that we're still at the very early stages. So if you haven't gotten in yet, there's still time. So my marketing person says that the answer is a resounding yes, that mobile advertising has arrived. I would probably be a little bit more cautious here. I mean, if you look at the numbers, let's look at the numbers. 2011, $2.1 billion in mobile advertising, $6 billion globally. The global US ad market is about $150 billion today. The US ad market, the global ad market is about $400 billion. So, and even 5 years from now, it's only, 10% of the global market in the US at 4.8. So, I would say it's growing very quickly. Has it arrived? I don't know. I think that's still up for debate. I think there's much more opportunity there. The world is constantly changing. And so I think there's more to be seen here. But I think that also means there is still opportunity. There are first mover opportunities, which we'll share later in this presentation. and there's ways to capitalize on the newness of this industry. So each quarter, Millennial Media publishes what we call the Smart Report. And essentially, it's an overview of what's going on in the network. What are people doing? So this is data from the latest Smart Report. So in chart D, advertisers' campaign goals. These are some of the things our current advertisers are doing with mobile. So sustained in-market presence, what is that? That's essentially application downloads. Site traffic, so that's 26%. Site traffic is another goal of our advertisers when they put out campaigns on mobiles. Registrations, lead gen, 17%. Brand awareness, 16%. Product launches and releases at 11%. And increased foot traffic at 7%, so your local retail guys. Now that is compared to the actual post-click campaign action that someone actually took. So in Q3 of last year, the highest post-click campaign action was actually site search at 41%. So they clicked on a mobile display banner and decided to do a search on a mobily optimized web page. Okay, 41%. Now the bottom numbers do not add up to 100%, just if anyone wanted to point that out. That's because campaigns have multiple goals, and we attribute those characteristics to multiple campaigns. So 41%. So we saw that with product launches. We saw that with driving kind of retail information. That's what really drove the 41% in Q3. This was followed by application downloads at 32%. So the travel sector was big for us in Q3. A lot of travel bookings, for example, were a primary action that our users took. 28% social media. This was driven a lot by the automotive sector, actually, in Q3, driving users to automotive social media sites. And this was followed by m-commerce, where we saw a lot of brick-and-mortar stores actually have a lot of success in Q3, and then followed by lead gen at 23%. So a lot of EDU, a lot of finance, essentially getting leads off of mobile with that 23%. So this gives you a sense of what's going on mobile-wise from an advertiser and a consumer perspective. In terms of the actual apps that advertisers were choosing to go to, you could see this is the vertical explosion slide. So automotive grew the highest in terms of the content that advertisers actually wanted to advertise on. So that grew about 574% year over year, followed by the travel sector, the education sector, sports, technology, and a new one for us, government services, really because of the election and a lot of kind of campaign running. We saw a growth there. In terms of the actual global advertising verticals that ran, it was led by telecommunications. So TV networks would fall under that category. Other wireless carriers fell into that category. Handset makers fell into that category, followed by retail and restaurants, finance, automotive, travel, portals and directories, CPG, entertainment, and education and technology. So just some trends in terms of the mobile market. So obviously, smartphones dominate at 75%. This was a slight uptick from Q2, where it was about 74%. The major story here is the continued decline of feature phones. So I think that was at 7% in Q2, and by Q3 it was down to 5%. Android maintained its lead in terms of OS mix at about 52%. Again, slight uptick there from Q2. iOS remained flat. Slow decline in BlackBerry OS at 8%. They were probably about 12% in Q2, and a slight uptick for Windows at 5%. So just giving you some color in terms of what's going on in terms of the actual mobile space. In terms of the tablet world, Apple, iPad, Samsung, and Amazon continue to dominate the tablet landscape. And so 68% of mobile advertising right now happens on the mobile smartphone. IDC sees that in 4 years, 40% of that will go over to tablets. And smartphones will also have another 40% of that market share. So again, looking at tablets as something to think about in terms of the future of mobile is something that we should all pay attention to. So in terms of the top 10 mobile application categories, so games is top in our network, and this has been a trend for the last year. It mimics what's happening on iTunes and Google Play in terms of kind of the most kind of consumer-friendly categories, followed by music and entertainment, communications, mobile social media, productivity and tools, and sports. In terms of the games breakdown, arcade games dominate at 30%, word games like Words for Friends at 26%, followed by puzzles at 19%, a huge category of inventory for us. Game applications by device type, 74% smartphones, 23% connected devices, and 3% feature phones. Obviously, not a lot of games on the feature phone front. And 64% Android. So Android is a big play for our game developers as well. And as you can see, the trend from, I think this is an e-commerce report, that the number of mobile gamers is going to increase over the next few years, as it shows in this chart. So this is a good time to just take a step back and do a little bit of a shameless plug for millennials. So we are one of the largest mobile ad networks. So our technology is actually implanted in over 38,000 mobile apps and websites. So that's where we serve the ads. We're on over 7,000 different devices, and we serve over 48 billion impressions per month. So all the data that you've just seen is actually represented. It's on our network, but it's representative of what's going on in terms of the mobile landscape as a whole. And so the next few slides will talk about how we're using our access to both our access to the game developers or the mobile developers and the mobile websites, and how we are looking at monetizing that. So, on this slide, it shows that, at different points of the day, actually, consumers are using different types of apps, which makes total sense. In the mornings, they're using planning apps, news apps to plan their day, to kind of get a sense of what's going on in the world. And I think there are two observations here. One is that, we can begin to target based on consumer behavior. And we're seeing advertisers look at segmenting not only the consumer base, but when they hit the advertiser with a certain ad during the course of the day. The second takeaway here is that you actually need to be a pretty big ad network to make sure that you get people throughout the day. And so, in the afternoon, that mix of apps changes for the consumer, where productivity and information-based apps during midday actually index much higher than other apps during the workday. Whereas in the evening, social and entertainment apps are really the main destinations for our consumer base. So where is all this going for mobile? So, based on location data, view data, and action data, and what location data is essentially the lat-long information that we're getting from the carrier through GPS, through the Wi-Fi device, through IP, reverse IP targeting. We can understand where the user is on a very precise level. So we can take that data, also look at their view data. So what types of content are they viewing? What types of apps are they looking at? And their action, their historical action. What types of content have they clicked on in the past? What types of polls did they fill out in the past? And combine all of those pieces and come up with different profile audiences, and therefore serve very relevant ads at very relevant times to the target audience. So the example here is that we have a woman. We know through standard attributes that this person is a woman, that this person is married, and that this person is a parent. And through location, a combination of location, view, and action data, we can identify this person as a mom at some point during the day. But she may also be a rock star at some point during the day. She might also be a coach. She may also be a tourist. She may also be a sister. She may also be an athlete. So when that person is at a Target, for example, or a toy store, for example, we know that because we have that long information, and we match that up with a third-party database to know that that's actually a Target store, and we know she's on an Amazon.com app, right? So combining those pieces of information, we can serve a very relevant ad to that person while that person is engaging in an app in that toy store or Target store. And this is really the same point. One person changing needs, and really based on merging location data with view data with action data, we can determine what this person's intent is better than just pure online data. Based on physical location shows intent. And that's really the future of where we're headed to at Millennial. So, based on all of this, we can really create interesting profiles of the audience based on their mobile profile, based on their location graph, their social graph, and their interest graph. I mean, one of the things that, I was talking to our technology team a few days ago, so I said, so what is this social graph thing? And the way they explained this to me is that we will be able to talk about or discover the proximity between two people. So let's say two people are on a millennial-based app. So one person's on, let's say, CBS News, the other person's on New York Times. And we can actually, because we can actually pinpoint the location, during the daytime, when we see two people close together, we can assume that those people are colleagues. During the nighttime, when we see two people together, we can assume that they're family members. And with that data, you can do very interesting things with social advertising, if you will. So that's kind of the next frontier of what we're looking at. So we have a very rich and growing data set that we can accumulate through mobile. There's the location graph that we talked about, and that's Wi-Fi and GPS and IP resolved data. There's the mobile profile graph. What type of OS are they on? What type of device are they using? What type of carrier are they using? Interest graph. What types of apps do they have? What types of apps are they most clicking on during the day? And obviously their social graph, which talks about their location-based social networks, their social activity, and their demographic data. So this may be a little bit too in-depth for you, but this is kind of the process by which we kind of compile these audience targets. So it's about data capture and enrichment, classification of those data points, traits building, audience creation, and then audience enrollment. So if people have more questions about that later on in the presentation, I can address some of those things. But I actually wanted to bring us back to now, right? So all of this is great for brand advertisers, great for people with big dollars to spend, great for the 75 of the top 100 ad agencies that we work with on a regular basis. But what does that mean to you today? Well, not much, right? Those guys who want to target that way have to spend lots of money to do that. But what is interesting is, and I'm sure you've seen this graph. This is a Kleiner-Perkins graph, Molly Meeker presentation that she did last year, basically showing that top graph, showing that people spend 10% of their time right now on mobile, but only 1% of the ad spend is going to mobile. Okay, so the big takeaway is that there's upside, right? Because if you look at all the media across the board, it's pretty equal, right? So on the internet, it's 26% time spent and 22% of the ad spend. With TV, it's 43% of time spent and 42% of the advertising dollars. On the flip side, the CPMs on mobile are 5 times lower than they are on the web. Okay? So if you look by category, if you look at eCPMs, $1.24 for weather-related content, education content, $1.17, going down the list, entertainment at 68 cents. So there's an opportunity here, and what we're seeing from the advertiser side, at least on our platform, is that we're having people arbitrage, right, and making lots of money because mobile inventory is kind of cheap. And how are they doing this? Well, through our self-service platform, they are optimizing themselves. So they're doing everything that they're doing on the web, but for mobile, right? So they're optimizing by OS platform. They're optimizing by carriers. They're optimizing by site IDs. We don't provide what sites they're running on, but we give them IDs. And if you see an ID that's not performing for you, you can cut that out. And they're learning because we don't have any minimum spends on self-serve. Minimum spend on an average account on millennials, maybe you have to spend at least 50 grand a month, right? On self-serve, there's no minimum budget, so we see a lot of A/B testing going on. And the majority of the people on self-serve are performance advertisers. So if you look at the left-hand side, performance advertiser segmentation, 43% of our total volume is actually coming from affiliate advertisers. These are guys who are coming in there, buying for cheap and selling high and profiting on the margin. The rest is a mix of in-network developers, which are essentially developers who are on the publishing side of our equation, out-of-network developers who are essentially using us for promoting app downloads. We have a few agencies and other ad networks buying our inventory. If you look at the affiliate segment, just the affiliate segment, their calls to action it's primarily registration-based. So short mobile landing pages, short mobile lead forms, and obviously they're reselling those leads to their partners. Top 10 ad categories in M-Media, so games, entertainment, mobile downloads, dating, education, social media, employment, health, retail and restaurants, and finance. So a variety of ad categories are playing in this kind of performance space. So M-Media, the self-serve platform, has really leveled the playing field with no minimum daily budgets, CPC or CPM options available, complete control over your campaign, 24/7 access to your data, flexible for many types of campaign goals, and access to the same inventory that Coca-Cola gets on a daily basis on our platform. So you're reaching the same premium audience. It's not a separate pool of inventory. It's the same inventory. The brand users are using it. They're just using it in a different way, buying on a CPC basis versus on a CPM basis. Another hot moving targeting criteria, which I haven't touched on, is hyperlocal targeting. So the ability to pinpoint a retail location, for example, and put a radius around it and say, hey, I only want to target mobile impressions 5 miles, 10 miles around my local car dealership. That's one of the fastest growing uses of our technology. You can also create polygons around locations. I have an agency out in Chicago that works with a lot of retailers in the Wrigley Field area. And he wanted to polygon target around the streets that his retail stores were at, around the stadium during game times. And so he's been very successful in terms of delivering results for his clients that way. So we actually did a case study with a large supermarket chain that wanted to try hyperlocal targeting across its 16 different locations across the United States in terms of getting foot traffic in their stores using this technology. And so what they did was actually draw a polygon around their supermarket chains. And what we wanted to see is whether or not, using Google Maps, whether or not the impressions actually fell within the lines that the advertiser drew themselves. And so we mapped it against the impressions that fell. And it was actually pretty impressive that on one side of the red line you would see the impression fall, and the other side you wouldn't. So I can't say it's done right 100% of the time, but we've been fairly successful in terms of seeing results. So if we compared just standard DMA targeting with hyperlocal targeting, we actually saw a 141% increase in terms of the click-through rate performance. So again, for performance-based advertisers, having easy access to information is key. So we have a very kind of turnkey dashboard that you can use to kind of judge the results of your campaigns and conversions. You can easily look at kind of conversion rates in terms of how many leads you're generating through the platform as well. And there are more tools to optimize in the platform, in the pipeline. So we will be giving, later this month, the opportunity to actually see the site IDs that are working for you, and you can actually blacklist and whitelist the sites that you may want to block or keep as you're optimizing your campaigns. If there are agencies in this crowd, there are ways for you to manage multiple clients. So if you have multiple clients that want to launch a mobile campaign, we have easy administrative access where you can set up multiple client accounts, and you can also set up various permissions for your employees to have various administrative access to each of those accounts. So you can set up an employee for a view-only access if that employee is maybe just kind of reporting, whereas you can set an admin access for your employee if you want to give him or her the ability to manage the campaigns as well. And so there are easy ways to create an advertiser account yourself. There are easy ways for you to define roles for your staff yourself. So just some of the key takeaways here. I want to leave some time for questions. Mobile is consistently changing, but data will be the key to fully leveraging its power to reach key audience targets. Second takeaway, performance advertising is an emerging trend based on favorable pricing, limited competition, and emerging global markets. That's something that we haven't talked about. We are a global company. A lot of our inventory sources come from vast countries around the world. And so that's another emerging trend because there are key markets where CPC prices are lower, where we're seeing, again, great arbitrage opportunities. And optimization and organizational tools, as well as the unencumbered ability to A/B test, is key for mobile success. So with that, I'll take any questions. Yes? Yeah.
That percentage seems pretty high for mobile. How do you convert it? How do you get paid on these forms being filled out on them?
Most of the advertisers that we're seeing are creating, so on lead gen, this gentleman was saying that lead gen is probably the most pertinent thing for the line of work that he's in. And he was saying that the numbers seem pretty high in terms of the number of people using lead gen on mobile and what are we seeing there. I would say the majority of the affiliates that I've talked about actually use lead gen, and they're doing it by creating mobile optimized lead gen landing page forms with maybe 3 fields. And so just very kind of simple, easy to type in, submit very quickly. Sometimes there is a second form. We've seen that a lot as well, but they tend to be very short fields. And I assume they're getting the quality has been good and they're getting paid for it because they keep coming back. So if that's, yeah.
And education, I'm just trying to conceive of someone filling out an educational form on a mobile phone at that rate.
Yeah, and I don't know the kind of what these education companies are paying out on these things, but I'm sure there's a process in place. And the multiple form piece really allows, the multiple landing page piece allows them to fill out, not make them feel like they're filling out a lot of information at one time. So I think that's one tactic that we're seeing our advertisers use.
Are your affiliates arbitraging mobile to mobile, or some of them do mobile to web? I mean, does it only work on Millennium with mobile to mobile?
When you say mobile to mobile,
I mean, mobile landing pages and mobile responsive sites, or some people actually just...
No. The ones that are successful are driving to a mobile landing page. There's very few people who drive from mobile to a web-based, non-optimized page that are successful. The secrets of mobile advertising right here. Yes.
How do you mentioned you're kind of behind Google and in the market share. How would you say your overall network CPCs or CPMs compare to something like a Google or an MSN or something like that?
I think we're competitive. So, I think it's a pretty efficient market. If people are not making money with you, they'll simply go to somewhere else. I think it forces all of the big competitors to be pretty competitive.
And is your network at Millennial a mixture of would you say it's skewed more towards advertising within apps, or is it have a good mixture between apps and mobile web?
80% is app-based.
Okay.
So we're definitely more app-focused.
And just overall, do you see that advertising within mobile apps, the costs are probably higher than with mobile web, or do you
Nope.
see kind of similar?
It's basically the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone else have a question? Gene?
Yeah, so you have a target audience here of domainers, and they
Yeah.
say, hey, I got a bunch of websites, a bunch of domains. How can I utilize Millennial? And I know you guys have a SDK. If you could kind of explain a little bit over how that works.
So domain owners, let me see. Yeah, I mean, I guess the way that I see you guys are entrepreneurs, right? And you guys essentially are trying to make money somehow. And I guess the main thing that I would say to you is that there is an opportunity to build on the success that you've had in the domain space in mobile. And I don't know if it's necessarily doing the same thing that you've done kind of on the web, but there are definitely opportunities that are there for the taking in mobile, and there are a variety of ways you can go about it. I think there are probably lots of ways to slice this up depending on what your goals are and depending on how you might want to shift your business. But mobile is definitely something to take a look at.
But specifically with Millennial, like
Yeah.
how would I utilize Millennial on my domains? So like with your SDK, what does that mean, I guess? Trying to explain that.
Yeah. So Millennial could actually help you monetize, right? So if you had a domain and you controlled but you guys don't control the content on your pages, right?
It's type in traffic.
It's type in traffic, right?
So it's not going to a web page, it's going somewhere. Going to a parking company, it's going to a zero-click solution.
Right. Yeah, I'm really not sure. So you would type in a domain name on your mobile web browser, and then it would jump to where?
Well, I think that's what a lot of the people here are wondering, how to get that traffic if somebody wants to bid on it. Because when it's going to a park page, it's not, I don't know if it's.
And you guys don't control what that page is.
You can,
Oh, you do.
you direct it wherever you want. We have the DNS, but we give it to somebody else.
Okay. I have to think about that a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say I have an answer right away for that one. Yeah. Maybe you guys have an answer for that. Anybody else want to comment on that?
So I think the question is, a user types in a domain name,
Yep.
and currently, if it's a desktop user, they'll go to a simple parked page with keywords and ads. If it's deemed that this is a mobile user, instead of sending them to a parked page, can that user be redirected to essentially an app, for example, that you have a partnership with and that you render ads on? And that user then gets displayed that app, sees the ad.
Potentially, and if we can track where that user is coming from or attribute that to your domain, there's probably an opportunity there. And if that user has to convert, right? So that user would then have to download that application, right? Potentially.
Let me switch gears and ask a question. For domain investors that are looking to buy domains that may be more likely to get type-in traffic on mobile devices, is there a trend in domain names that are more likely to be used? So, for example, a geo name, restaurants, NYC restaurants, or something like that. Do you see an increase in traffic on geo-related domain names, for example?
So we're purely in the mobile display space. So we don't have access to data on the search pieces of it of the equation. So it'd be hard for me to say.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
So we'll take a break and come back at your session's at 3:30, right? 3:30. Next session, panel discussion, how to get mobile traffic on a low budget, restricted budget. Okay, thank you, everybody.